Good day, everyone. This is Eliza Tavis of BSED 1A, and this is my report on Understanding the Self, Chapter 7, The Consumer Culture and the Material Self. And I'm going to discuss its subtopics: the anchorage and relay, the Calvinist principle, the Marxist perspective, the commodity fetishism, and alienation. In Roland Barthes' book, The Rhetoric of the Image, he wrote two kinds of relationships between text and image: the anchorage and relay. By definition, anchorage underlines the importance of an image, while relay puts emphasis on a more complementary relationships between the two, the text and the image. Believe it or not, even the most impulsive of consumers go through a structured cognitive process before they randomly buy something. It could be a piece of furniture or a dress on sale. According to Philip Kotler 1980, there are 5 stages in the so-called buyer decision process. Number 1, needs arousal recognition. Number 2, information search. Number 3, evaluation behavior. Number 4, purchase decision. And number 5, post-purchase feelings. In needs or arousal recognition, the buying process begins when a consumer realizes that they have a need. At this point, the customer may or may not know how to solve their problem. They may have an idea about what will fulfill them, but they are not quite sure which brand, product, service, or solution will provide the best option. The next one is the information search. In this phase of buying process, it begins when the customer starts looking for information that will help them solve their problem. They know they need something to fix their situation, but they aren't sure which solution is best for them. The third one is the evaluation behavior. In this phase, the customers may start reflecting on what they have learned or discovered. They begin to evaluate their options to determine which is the best solution for their problem. Customers at this point have a lot to consider. They must determine what solution is best, trustworthy, affordable, highest quality, and highest performing. They look for reasons to believe why one solution has more benefits than the other. The fourth one is the purchase decision. In this phase, the customer is ready to pull the trigger and make a purchase. They have made a decision about which product, service, brand, or solution is best for them, and they are ready to buy. The research and evaluation are over, so the customer just needs a clear pathway to purchase, just like reviews, testimonials, discounts that will lead them to purchase and avoid negative reinforcements, which causes customers to turn away. The last one is the post-purchase feelings. In this phase, the customer has made a purchase, but that doesn't mean that the customer journey is complete. Now is the time when the customer reflects on whether they made the right decision. The customer will consider if the solution fully meets their needs. They will feel either satisfaction or remorse. If the customer is satisfied, then they may make another purchase. But if they didn't like the product, they may never make another purchase and even share their negative experience with others. Now let's move to the next topic, the Calvinist principle. Throughout his life, the Protestant theologian John Calvin has passionately argued against the Catholic doctrine's espousal of asceticism. For him, it is through the consumption of material goods that people can fully fulfill God's desires. But while Calvin is firmly behind the belief that consumption and wealth accumulation are divine acts, he specified that these must only be done in moderation, to avoid extremes of their either complete material abstinence or excess. One must play it right down the middle. He also added that person's hard work justifies his or her consumption. Thus, the rich are assumed to be the industrious lot whose wealth is willed by God. Naturally, the same logic applies to the opposite. The poor do not work as hard, so their social status and eventual deprivation of the divine beneficence is believed to be righteously meted out. Now let's move on to the Marxist perspective. The Marxist thought, however, has positioned consumer culture within the complex entanglements of the capitalist economic model. If some academic disciplines consider consciousness as the factor that determines society, Karl Marx suggests that the opposite. It is the society that determines consciousness. More specifically, economic imperatives dictate how we think of or decide. The material life with its modes of production defines the process of the self, the social, political, or spiritual. Although the consciousness of the proletariats is heavily decided for them by the ruling class, the latter prevents the former from developing what is referred to as class consciousness, which is considered as a means to a revolutionary end. And that's it for the Marxist perspective. Now let's move on to the commodity fetishism. A cornerstone way capitalist societies have over people's material selves, at least from Marx's viewpoint, is what anthropology refers to as fetishism, rather primitive belief that inanimate objects can be imbued with godlike powers. In this context, these can pertain to how certain goods are given high monetary value with no regard for the labor that went into its creation. The danger here is that many people might then view said products as if they harbor intrinsic value in and of themselves even without human agency. Take for example the frenzy over the latest model of the iPhone causes people to line up for hours outside Apple stores just to get one of their own, not in appreciation of its labor value, but to buy into the brand's mythology and the godlike status the company's late founder Steve Jobs is accorded. So now we're done with commodity fetishism. Let's move on to our last topic, the alienation. Labor in capitalist societies is often imposed and non-voluntary, hence why most employees avoid it like the plague when outside work premises. Under such conditions, individuals work to afford gratifying commodities such as vacations to luxury items, but never for its own sake. Thus, work becomes completely separate or alien from the individual, as it contains little to no need satisfying value. This therefore leads to worker apathy and eventually the alienation from one's labor. In capitalism, the worker does not work to create a product that he then sells to a real person. Instead, they work in order to live, in order to obtain the very means of life, which he can only achieve by selling his labor to a capitalist for a wage. The worker is alienated from his or her product precisely because he or she no longer owns that product, which now belongs to the capitalist who has purchased the worker's labor power in exchange for exclusive ownership. And now we're done with the discussion, but let us first summarize the topics. We have learned that our behavior in relation to consumer goods has a considerate factor, and it is enshrined in Philip Kotler's bar decision process, which are the needs or arousal recognition, the information search, the evaluation behavior, purchase decision, and post-purchase feelings. On the Calvinist principle, one's tendency for buying things, as theologian John Calvin explains, is willed by God, as it is a clear-cut manifestation of how one's hard work can be divinely compensated in a concrete form. While for Karl Marx, consumption is momentary escape from imposed labor in a capitalist society, and is often resulting in alienation. Again, this is Elisa Tavis of BSED 1A, and that's my report on Understanding Self, Chapter 7, The Consumer Culture on the Material Self. I do hope that you have learned something from my report. Thank you.